In this video, we're going to talk about graphs and tables, and we're going to make some distinctions and some decisions. And we're going to decide if our graphs and tables are proportional. Remember, in order to be proportional, they have to fit in the y equals mx equation. Remember from our last few lessons that when it fits into that y equals mx equation, that our origin, meaning 0, 0, is one of our points on the line. So let's go ahead and get started and talk about some proportional and non-proportional graphs. All right, as I look at these two graphs, I just want you to take a second and decide which of these two graphs is proportional based on our just previous explanation. All right, if I look at these two graphs, remember, to be proportional, it has to fit in that y equals mx category, and my starting point, or my center of my graph, my line needs to include the ordered pair 0, 0. So as I look at both of these graphs, which of those graphs include that ordered pair 0, 0? Now, graph 1 most definitely does. Right there is 0, 0. So this is proportional. Now, what about this other graph? Well, here's 0, 0 down here. Is my origin on that line? Hey, no, it's not. My origin is below all of those dots. So this is not proportional. Now, one other thing that you're going to be asked to do on your assignment is also to be finding the slope, which you're going to see on your paper labeled as M, and also the y-intercept, which you're going to see labeled as B. Now, how do I find the slope from a graph again? Hey, it's been a minute. We've been graphing a bunch of things, but how do you find the slope? Remember, if I'm looking at a graph, to go along my line till I find another point where it crosses on one of those grid lines. And I'm going to count my rise and my run between these 2 points. So I'm going to count my rise. Now, a lot of people would say, hey, you just went up 1 because I counted 1 space. But pay attention to that scale. I am actually going up 10. I'm going to label that over here. And I'm running 1 space. Now look down here at the x-axis to determine how much that really is running. It's a run of 1. Remember, slope is rise over run. So on the top of my fraction, I'm going to write rise. Not rise. The actual number that represents my rise, which is I rose 10, over my run, which is 1. Remember, numbers over 1 can be written as a whole number, which is 10. What is my y-intercept? Well, my y-intercept is where my graph crosses this y-axis, which is at 0. If I look at this example right here, what is my m? My m is my slope, so I have got a bunch of green dots on here. It does not matter which 2 points I choose, but I always go from left to right, so I probably would choose this point and this point. So let's calculate our rise over our run. If I count my spaces, I can see that it goes up 1. From 0 to 1, that's 1 space. And I'm going to go over. Now, it looks like I'm going over 1, but if I'm going from -4 to -2, I'm actually counting 2 spaces. So my slope is 1 over 2. Hey, remember my slope is my rise on top, so 1 on top, and my run on bottom, so 2 on bottom. Now, what is my y-intercept? Where does my diagonal line cross the y-axis? So here's the y-axis right here. Where is that intersection point? It's right here at what number does that correspond to? It corresponds to 2. And that's how I find the slope and the y-intercept from a graph. Hey, let's talk about how to find your slope and your y-intercept from a table. Now, on this example right here, I can see that my y-intercept is going to be where the x value is 0. So right here's my 0, 0. Now, what does this mean? Remember, if a graph goes through 0, 0, that means that is proportional. Let me write a quick summary, and this is a note that I would make to myself. Okay, a graph or table is proportional only if it goes through 0, 0. Or we call that the origin. So this graph is proportional. How do I find the slope? Remember, to find the slope, I find two ordered pairs. This is an x value, this is a y value. This is an x value, this is a y value. This is my first point. This is my second point. How do I find the slope? Remember, 2 minus 0. Y, and how did I get that again? Remember, my slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Remember, I'm chugging and plugging. So I'm taking y2, plugging it in here, 2. Writing the minus sign down. y1 is 0, so 2 minus 0 over, what are my x values? 2 minus 0. And if I simplify that, 2 over 2, my m is 1. My y-intercept is 0, 0. Hey, let's look at this last graph. Remember this last table, I should say. This is x, this is an x, this is a y, this is a y. This is my first point, this is my second point. So let's find the slope of this table. So remember, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. My m is equal to y2, so 2 minus y1, which is 1, over x2. If I look at my table, 8 minus x1, which is 4. What does that simplify to? What's 2 over 2 minus 1? 1. What's 8 minus 4? 4. So my slope, or my m, is 1/4. How do you find your y-intercept? Well, my goal is to find the y-intercept is when the x value is 0. So when this top value right here is 0. But I notice I don't have any 0, so how do I find that? Well, I'm going to go backwards. Notice that the pattern is adding 4. So if I want to get to 0, all I have to do is minus 4. So if I get to 0, notice all I have to do is go backwards in my pattern on the y-axis to find my y-intercept. So 1 plus 1 is 2. And so if I go backwards, 1 minus 1 is 0. So the last question, so what is my y-intercept? My y-intercept is 0, because that value right there is 0. And is this proportional? Yes, it's proportional. And wait, why? Because I have the ordered pair. My graph goes through the ordered pair 0, 0. All right. If you have any questions, please reach out and have a great day.